Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is honestly going to blow your mind. We're taking a fascinating look at the hard data behind wild animal attacks, grabbing this straight from a super popular piece of source material by Brightside, titled 13 Tips on How to Survive Wild Animal Attacks. We're breaking down the actual statistics on human and animal encounters. And let me tell you, right out of the gate, the numbers you're about to hear, they are going to absolutely shatter everything pop culture has built up for us. We're going to use this data to totally rewire how you think about danger in the natural world.
Okay, let's dive right into it. I want you to genuinely think about your answer to this question for a second. Which wild animal do you fear the absolute most? Like if you were to ask 100 people on the street, what do you think they'd say? Chances are the answers are heavily influenced by the movies we watch, the books we read, and those sensational news headlines. We've basically been culturally conditioned to fear certain creatures as these unstoppable monsters just prowling in the dark woods or swimming in the deep ocean, waiting to strike. But does the actual data back up that fear?
Section 1. Hollywood Monsters and Exaggerated Threats.
Just 6. Seriously, according to the Brightside data, that is the total number of global deaths caused by sharks annually. Just 6 deaths a year. I mean, think about that for a moment. We literally have an entire week of television dedicated to how terrifying sharks are, right? We have massive blockbuster movies painting them as these relentless killing machines. Yet their infamous reputation is heavily exaggerated. When you actually look at the statistical reality, the threat is astonishingly low. It totally flips the script on what we've been taught to be terrified of when stepping onto a beach.
So the crucial takeaway here is that these legendary monsters we picture just don't post the numbers we think they do. We just talked about sharks sitting at a mere 6 deaths a year. Well, next up, consider wolves. They're often depicted as the ultimate terrifying pack hunters of the forest, right? Actually, they're responsible for just 10 deaths annually. And even the mighty lion, the undisputed king of the jungle and a total stable of wildlife documentaries, accounts for only 22 human fatalities a year. These numbers completely subvert our expectations. The animals we are trained to fear the most are, statistically speaking, barely making a dent in these numbers.
Which brings us to Section 2, the real killers, and some incredibly surprising stats. Now, there is a pretty profound irony in how our source material describes this next animal. They call them cute, lovely giants. And they're referring, of course, to elephants. We see them in zoos, we ride them on safaris, and we generally view them as these gentle, super intelligent herbivores. But the data reveals a way darker reality. These cute, lovely giants are actually the reason that more than 500 people lose their lives every single year. 500. That is a massive leap from the 22 deaths caused by lions. It really just goes to show how our perception of an animal's temperament can totally blind us to the sheer danger of its immense size and power.
And hey, the elephant isn't alone at the top of the heavyweight division here. Hippopotamuses actually equal elephants in this scary competition, also causing 500-plus deaths annually. Again, think about it. Hippos are usually portrayed as slow, clumsy, almost comical creatures in kids' media. But in reality, they are highly aggressive and incredibly territorial animals. If you encroach on a hippo's space, particularly in the water, the outcome can be absolutely devastating. They far outpace those classic predators we talked about earlier.
All right, let's really look at the true scale of wild animal lethality here. The escalation is just staggering. Down at the bottom, you've got lions at 22. Then you see crocodiles rocketing all the way up to roughly 1,000 deaths a year, making them vastly more dangerous than the sharks we fear in the water. But look at the undisputed champion of this grim statistic, the snake. A staggering 100,000 people meet their end from these reptiles annually. 100,000? The visual jump on this graph is just incredible. The deadliest animals aren't always the biggest or the loudest. Sometimes they're the ones slithering quietly right beneath our feet.
Let's move on to Section 3, the survival roster, breaking down 13 specific animal threats.
First up, let's group our aquatic and semi-aquatic threats. We're talking the shark, the jellyfish, the hippopotamus, and the alligator or crocodile. Water-based dangers require a very specific kind of awareness. Whether you're swimming in the ocean and need to worry about the silent sting of a jellyfish, or you're navigating a river where a highly territorial hippo or an ambush predator like a croc might be lurking just below the surface, the water is an environment where you are at a distinct disadvantage. Knowing how to spot and evade these animals in their own element is absolutely critical.
Now, stepping onto land, we meet the savanna and forest heavyweights, the lion, the elephant, the rhinoceros, the gorilla, the bear, and the kangaroo. This list right here represents pure, unadulterated physical power. Escaping a charging rhinoceros or a fiercely protective bear isn't about fighting back, it's about serious wilderness awareness and knowing exactly how to react in those crucial first few seconds of an encounter. For example, playing dead might be your best bet for one animal, while standing your ground is absolutely necessary for another. Every single one of these massive terrestrial animals requires a completely different survival strategy.
Finally, we face the everyday and unexpected encounters: the bull, the snake, and bees. And this grouping highlights a really crucial lesson from the data. You don't have to be trekking through the deep Amazon rainforest or out on the African savanna to face a life-threatening wild animal. A bull in a pasture, a snake hidden on your favorite hiking trail, or a swarm of bees in your own neighborhood can be incredibly dangerous. Remember, snakes alone account for 100,000 deaths. The most dangerous creatures are often the ones you might bump into completely by accident during your normal, everyday routine.
Which leads perfectly into Section 4, preparing for the wild and staying educated.
So it really makes you wonder, should we be looking closer at our own backyards rather than the deep ocean? Today's explainer revealed that the creatures we spend all our time fearing, like sharks and wolves, are statistically pretty minor threats. Meanwhile, the real danger is coming from surprising places: territorial herbivores like hippos or small, easily overlooked reptiles and insects. The biggest takeaway from this bright side data is that true survival isn't about paranoia, it's about proper education. It's about knowing the real statistics and being prepared for the environment you're actually in. So I highly encourage you to take this newfound perspective and research the specific survival tips for the wildlife in your area. Because honestly, you never know when that knowledge might just save your life.